My name is Benjamin Banneker. I was born in Baltimore County, Maryland in 1731. Most black people in America at that time were enslaved, but I was born free. The son of a free black woman and an emancipated African slave. My 3 sisters and I grew up on our family's 100-acre tobacco farm. We weren't wealthy, but we worked hard, and we got by. And most importantly, we were free. I became fascinated by the predictable patterns of nature, the phases of the moon, the coming in and going out of the tides, the movement of the stars throughout the night and throughout the year. As a boy, I mostly taught myself and became equally fascinated with mathematics, the predictable relationships between angles and shapes and distances, so much so that I would see them in my dreams. One day, when I was a young man in my 20s, a family friend showed us his pocket watch. I was so mesmerized by its inner workings, I asked if I could borrow it for a while. I studied the function of each part and carved my own larger gears out of wood until I had assembled a working clock that kept good time and chimed on the hour, the first of its kind in our area. My parents passed away, and my sisters each married and moved away in turn. But me, I suppose I was too busy running the farm and doing my research to think about a family of my own. In 1772, when I was in my 40s, Andrew Ellicott, along with his brothers and sons, became my neighbor when he decided to build a flour mill on a nearby creek. The Ellicotts were of the Quaker religion and abolitionists, opposed to slavery and in favor of equal rights for blacks, so we became fast friends. Andrew's son, George, was an enthusiast of astronomy like me and generously shared with me his books, telescopes, and other astronomical equipment. I learned so much over the years that followed, and then the revolution began. I marveled at the noble language of the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson. But I was disappointed to learn that, despite stating that all men are created equal, the leaders of the newly formed United States had not agreed to abolish slavery. After the war, I took on an ambitious project. Using years of data I had collected and the knowledge of astronomy I had acquired, I created an ephemeris, a prediction of the movement of the stars and planets in the sky. These were often included in the almanacs used by farmers, sailors, and many others. It was an enormous undertaking, but I was dedicated to my work and completed it in time to publish it for the coming year. I went to printer after printer, but no one would agree to include my work in their almanac. I was discouraged. Why go to so much work for something the world would never see? Early the next year, Thomas Jefferson, now serving as a U.S. Secretary of State, commissioned my neighbor, Andrew Ellicott, to survey the site for the nation's new capital, the District of Columbia. Andrew's brothers were busy on another survey in New York State, so he invited me to come and assist him with the project. I was excited to use my skill in plotting locations and distances in service of such an important project. Working with Mr. Ellicott gave me renewed determination to see my own work published. So, after the dedication of the chief boundary stone for the capital, I returned home to Maryland and began work on a new almanac for the coming year. I showed my work to Mr. Ellicott, and he was so impressed that he sent copies to leading astronomers and mathematicians with whom he was acquainted. They endorsed the accuracy of my work, and from that time forward, many publishers would print and distribute my almanacs throughout the country year after year. I took advantage of the opportunity to make the case for the abolition of slavery in each edition of the almanac as anti-slavery sentiments were growing in the United States. Emboldened by my success, I wrote a letter to Thomas Jefferson, both praising his excellent writing and leadership, but also criticizing his failure to abolish slavery. I included with my letter a copy of the almanac I had created. Jefferson replied and was sympathetic to my complaints against slavery. He was surprised to learn of my contribution to survey the District of Columbia and impressed by my almanac. I did not live to see the abolition of slavery, but perhaps my accomplishments helped make it clear to the leaders of the West that there are no inferior races, making the end of slavery inevitable.